Can you think of one?
Michael Jai White.
Can I laugh in your face?
Really?
Yes.
Hollywood tough guy, in your opinion. You accept it, of course.
When you say tough guy, do you mean martial artist or just tough guy?
I mean, Steven, for real. If he was on the street and there was a situation, you wanted this Hollywood guy by your side because he could defend himself. It's that hard to think of a legit one?
Can you think of one?
Michael Jai White.
Can I laugh in your face?
Really?
Yes.
When I really flared toward him is that he was hurting the stunt guys. And one of my very good friends, a guy named James Liu, and another friend named Nils Stewart, who were nice people, but he would make it a point to like kind of even off camera do things like wrench their arms. He actually tore Nils's bicep for no reason. Just to,
But how was he afterwards? Was he apologetic or?
The next day he was.
When someone else can do what you do and better, that's when the real drama starts. Michael Jai White is finally spilling the piping hot tea about his longtime clash with Steven Seagal. And whew, it's a whole mess. Michael didn't sugarcoat a single word. He straight up called Seagal out in a recent interview, blasting him as totally unprofessional, full of himself, and downright nasty to everyone around him. But wait, it gets even messier. Michael went all in, saying Seagal's not just arrogant, he's also got a history of saying some seriously questionable things. Michael claims Seagal acts like he's above everybody, treating folks around him like they're beneath him. And according to Michael, that attitude isn't just ego, it's about race too. Fans were locked in because this feud, it's been bubbling for decades and is one of the wildest in Hollywood. People have always sensed there was beef between these two action stars. But nobody expected Michael to drop bombs like this. So, what did Michael really say? Is it true Seagal bounced out of the US because he's facing legal heat and those racist allegations? Yeah, that's been floating around too, and Michael just might have confirmed what people have whispered about for years. Now let's dig into how all this started. Their drama goes way back to the early 2000s, when they were both deep in the action movie game. But don't get it twisted. This wasn't some personal falling out over egos. According to insiders, it had everything to do with Seagal's trash behavior both on set and off. Now things have officially boiled over. Michael Jai White is speaking loud and clear about how Steven Seagal almost wrecked his whole career right when he was at the top of his game. Back in the day, Seagal had a chokehold on Hollywood's action scene. He built his brand off being the tough guy no one messed with. But the problem? He didn't know when to turn that tough guy act off. Meanwhile, Michael Jai White, that man's the real deal. A legit martial artist and tournament champ with mad respect from pros all around the world, in and out of the fight game. Even with all that, Michael and Seagal did work together. In fact, get this, Seagal actually personally asked Michael to show up in his films and even help direct a few of them. So at one point, it seemed like there was mutual respect, or so we thought. But then 2012 rolled around, and that's when things hit the fan. During an interview, someone asked Seagal a simple question. Did he think Michael Jai White was a great fighter? Instead of keeping it cool, Seagal laughed, straight up disrespected him and said he didn't rate Michael's career at all. Now, people already knew Seagal had a rep for downplaying other fighters just to make himself look like the top dog. But to throw shade at Michael, someone who had helped him out and stood by him in the industry, that was a next-level slap in the face, and it instantly changed everything between them. Steven Seagal's rise in Hollywood was wild. For a while, folks thought he was untouchable in the action movie world. Back in his prime, he had fans thinking he was the next big thing, like he was changing the whole game. Before he was breaking arms on screen, Seagal had packed his bags as a young man and moved all the way to Japan to level up in martial arts. And he didn't just train, he mastered it. He earned a black belt in Aikido, a serious Japanese martial art that's all about flowing with your opponent's moves, using their own energy against them. It ain't flashy like movie fights. It's clean, precise, and about staying calm and in control. Funny enough, It's built on not being violent. But we'll get to that contradiction later. Steven even married into martial arts royalty. His first wife, Miko Fujitani, came from a legendary family in the fight scene. Her family ran a top-tier Aikido dojo, and Steven ended up running it himself, becoming the first American to ever teach in a traditional Aikido school in Japan. That was a huge deal at the time. Eventually, he brought that energy back to Los Angeles, where he kept teaching. But everything changed in 1988 when he made his acting debut in Above the Law. That film was a major turning point. It was the first American movie to show real Aikido in the fight scenes. The movie blew up, and suddenly, Seagal was in the same conversation as action icons like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Stallone, and Bruce Willis. Steven Seagal was everywhere in the early 90s. His role as Casey Ryback, the ex-Navy SEAL turned kitchen warrior in Under Siege, 1992, locked him in as a top-tier action star. That movie was a smash hit, so big that they dropped a sequel in 1995, Under Siege 2, Dark Territory. By then, Seagal's name was known in every action-loving household. But while the camera showed him as a hero, word behind the scenes was a whole different story. By 1991, before his biggest movie had even dropped, Hollywood was already buzzing about Seagal's off-screen behavior. And when he hosted Saturday Night Live that year, it was a disaster. Lorne Michaels, the man behind SNL, along with cast members like David Spade and Tim Meadows, didn't hold back. They flat out said Seagal was the worst host in the show's history. He allegedly treated the cast and writers like they were beneath him, refused to join in on planned sketches, and even shut down a Hans and Franz bit just because the characters had once joked about beating
We were
him
in
up.
the parking lot talking about it. And I was like, oh, cool. And then when I get to set, I find out the parameter of what the movie's about. And it's about these white people in Alaska mistreating the natives. And this fight was going to be at a country western bar. And I said, okay, wait a second. No, you want me to do a martial art fight scene with you but I'm fighting on the side of racist white people in a country western bar in Alaska. And I said, why don't you throw a yarmulke on me?
But it gets way more uncomfortable. Julia Sweeney, a former SNL cast member, later dropped a bomb about one of Seagal's ideas for a sketch. According to her, Seagal pitched a disturbing plot where a woman, after surviving a traumatic assault, goes to her therapist, only for the therapist to try and hook up with her. Like what? That's not just tone deaf, that's wildly inappropriate. At some point, people stopped buying into Steven Seagal's whole tough guy act and started seeing the real dude behind the scenes, a bully who talked down to everyone like they were beneath him. He wasn't just causing problems on Saturday Night Live, he had beef with a long list of action stars and real martial arts legends too. Seagal walked around like he was untouchable, acting like he was the king of the fight world. He constantly talked trash in interviews, downplaying other fighters and mocking his own co-stars. But when it came time to back it up, dude would straight up vanish, never showing up to prove anything in real life. But here's the thing, in Hollywood, you can only burn so many bridges before the calls stop coming. And Seagal, he was about to learn that lesson the hard way. Sure, he had the moves for action flicks, but let's be real, he was never known for his acting chops. So once his attitude caught up with him, the hits stopped rolling in. After Under Siege, his career slowly started nosediving. From Fire Down Below to The Glimmer Man, movie after movie just flopped. By 2001, Seagal was in desperate need of a comeback because his action star status was hanging by a thread. That's when Exit Wounds came into the picture. It was hyped up to be Seagal's big return. The movie had everything: solid story, big-name producers, a massive budget, and a loaded cast featuring rapper DMX and actor Isaiah Washington. To seal the deal, Seagal even reached out to his old colleague and real martial artist, Michael Jai White. Michael Jai White was that guy, and still is, Even back then, he had mad respect from top-tier athletes across every combat sport. He wasn't just another actor throwing punches on screen. He was the real deal, an athlete's athlete. He had legit skills and a serious rep for helping choreograph some of Hollywood's cleanest fight scenes.
Steven Seagal was so horrible on such a scale. It was such a huge scale of terribleness that it was undeniable by anyone who was there. I remember at one point he locked himself in this dressing room because he said that you're saying Hans and Franz could beat me up and I'm not coming out of the dressing room until you change the sketch. Like, I mean, it was really legendary, craziness.
And his name was starting to pop up more and more in the action movie world. Exit Wounds was supposed to be a guaranteed hit. Everything was in place, except for one problem. Steven Seagal's ego, his whole tough guy act, started to catch up with him. People already knew he was hard to work with, but things were getting out of control. Stunt performers hated being on set with him because he'd constantly go off script and hit way harder than he was supposed to. Some folks got messed up so bad, they had to leave set and get treated. One major red flag popped up during the filming of On Deadly Ground in 2004. Seagal was working on a fight scene with Sve-Ola Thorsen, a respected actor and stuntman. And instead of sticking to the choreo, Steven straight up blasted the guy in the throat. For real. Thorsen ended up injured, and word got out fast. And that wasn't the only incident. John Leguizamo shared how Seagal once slammed him into a brick wall, just because John laughed when Steven walked on set and said, "I'm in charge." According to John, Seagal couldn't tell the difference between movie scenes and real life. Dude was walking around like he was actually some kind of superhero. By the time Exit Wounds started filming, the vibe on set was pure chaos. Seagal was beefing with everybody, or better yet, everybody had a problem with him. Cast, crew, stunt people. Nobody wanted to deal with his wild temper and that bully energy he carried around like a badge of honor. Tension was thick on set, and Seagal wasn't helping. He refused to take direction from anyone. Directors? Ignored. Fight coordinators? Dismissed. He had zero interest in collaborating and always acted like he knew better than the whole crew combined. Even comedian Tom Arnold, who usually keeps things light, ended up clashing with him. And get this, Seagal wouldn't even do basic stuff if it didn't make him look cool. He flat out refused to be filmed running because he thought it made him look weak or awkward. That's how deep the ego ran. But then, things took a tragic turn. During one of the stunt sequences, a respected stuntman named Chris Lamont, correct spelling, lost his life. Chris wasn't some rookie. He was a seasoned professional who had worked on tons of big productions. But during a dangerous vehicle stunt, something went horribly wrong. He was thrown from the vehicle and hit his head hard. He was rushed to the hospital, but the injuries were brutal. And sadly, he didn't survive. The whole set was shaken. Imagine being one of the other stunt performers after that. Having to keep working in that environment, knowing someone had just died doing their job while the lead actor couldn't even take simple direction. You'd think after everything that went down, Steven Seagal would have toned it down a notch and acted like a decent human being. But nope, he was still out here causing chaos, handing out injuries like candy and turning basic stunt scenes into dangerous messes. Even DMX, who wasn't just a rapper but also a key star in the film, got hurt. Seagal twisted DMX's arm during a scene, completely going off script, and ended up slamming him to the ground. That wasn't part of the plan, and it showed Seagal had no regard for anyone else's safety on set. By the time the movie was wrapping up, folks had had enough. The energy on set was straight up toxic. Everyone, from actors to the camera crew, wanted Seagal gone. And the final cherry on top? The last scene they were supposed to shoot was a fight between Michael Jai White and Seagal himself. The ultimate showdown, real martial artist versus Hollywood tough guy. Audiences would have lived for it. But behind the scenes, things got wild. Michael later revealed that actors and crew members were quietly pulling him aside, one by one, telling him they wouldn't mind if he just laid Seagal out for real. Like, actually knocked him out on set. People were that sick of Seagal's attitude, they wanted him humbled, bad. And let's be real, Michael could have done it. The man's a legit martial artist with worldwide respect. Meanwhile, Seagal was looking more like a washed-up movie star clinging to an image he couldn't back up anymore. Let's be real. Steven Seagal didn't stand a chance against Michael Jai White. Not physically, not professionally, not even close, and Michael had every reason to go off. He'd watch Seagal bully and disrespect people nonstop. By that point, he had zero respect left for the guy. Honestly, if something had gone down and Seagal got knocked out, nobody on that set would have shed a single tear. But Michael, being the class act he is, kept it professional. He chose not to stoop to that level. Instead of throwing hands, he followed the rules, even though the rules were stacked in Seagal's favor. See, Seagal had a clause in his contract that said no one was allowed to hit him for real. Yeah, for real. So Michael had to pull every punch and couldn't even move at full speed, which made their big fight scene fall completely flat. What should have been the most epic moment of the movie turned into a slow, stiff mess. Then fast forward to 2012, and Seagal did that interview, the one where he laughed at the idea of Michael Jai White being a great fighter. Michael later admitted that was the moment it all clicked for him. Seagal wasn't some martial arts legend. He was just an insecure man who couldn't handle anyone being better than him. Seagal's career...
You want me to do a martial art fight scene with you but I'm fighting on the side of racist white people.
Pretty much went up in smoke after all the drama he caused. These days, he's making low-budget action flicks overseas, mostly in Thailand. But here's the real twist. Rumors say Seagal might be avoiding the U.S. altogether because of some legal issues. That's right. Some folks believe he's hiding out in Russia. And guess what? In 2016, he was granted Russian citizenship by none other than Vladimir Putin, after years of riding hard for pro-Putin media. Steven Seagal didn't just fade into the background when his Hollywood run fell off. He did a full pivot and started claiming deep Russian roots, like he suddenly found his true identity. As things crumbled in the US, he doubled down on this new image, calling Vladimir Putin his brother and praising him as one of the greatest leaders alive. Yeah, he really said that. Putin clearly saw all this fanboy behavior and ran with it. In 2016, he officially granted Seagal Russian citizenship, and Seagal ran with it hard. He started calling himself 1,000,000% Russian, like he was born and raised in Moscow. And it didn't stop there.
Yeah, that wasn't easy. That was, I did a movie with him called Executive Decision.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Oh yeah, all three of you saw it. and the first day we get together for rehearsal with the actors and the director, he comes in, I'm in command. What I say is law. You disagree? And I started cracking. I was like, I thought he was kidding. We were just hanging out.
Putin gave him a whole Order of Friendship award, supposedly for promoting international culture and humanitarian cooperation. But let's be honest, that award had less to do with culture and way more to do with Seagal's role in pushing Russian propaganda. Seagal didn't just show support. He actively worked on spreading the Kremlin's message, especially about the war in Ukraine. He helped create several propaganda films that flipped the script, showing Russians as the brave heroes and Ukrainians as the villains. In one of the most disturbing examples, Seagal starred in a film called In the Name of Justice, where he visited a war-torn part of Ukraine and basically blamed Ukrainians for everything that happened. And get this, there's a clip from 2020 where Seagal actually called Ukrainians Nazis. He's gone all in with the Kremlin, and anytime there's a camera or mic in front of him, he uses it to defend Russia's side and trash Ukraine. Word on the street is that Steven Seagal's got tax problems so deep, they could fill up a whole binder, and not the small kind either. And one thing everybody knows, when it comes to Uncle Sam, he always comes to collect. So let's ask the real question. Why would Seagal suddenly relocate his whole life to Russia, a country that conveniently has no extradition treaty with the US? Yeah, it's giving man-on-the-run energy for sure. This wasn't just some casual move. Seagal didn't go for a few months or a movie shoot, he dipped. Sold off his US property bit by bit and set up shop in Russia like he was never planning to come back. That's not relocation. That's a full-blown escape plan. Meanwhile, Michael Jai White, he's been done with Seagal for years. After everything that went down, the disrespect, the bullying, the behind-the-scenes drama, Michael lost every ounce of respect for the guy. And he made that crystal clear in a recent interview where he clowned Seagal's acting, saying his stunts were so basic, anybody's dad could pull them off. Eventually, when Seagal saw his career circling the drain, he tried to do damage control. He reached out to Michael with an apology, probably hoping to smooth things over. But Michael, he wasn't buying it, not even for a second. He saw right through Seagal's little performance. At this point, Michael Jai White doesn't even need to lift a finger. Steven Seagal keeps digging his own hole, one reckless move at a time. It's honestly wild to see someone who had it all just throw it away like that. A sad, messy downfall for a guy who once stood shoulder to shoulder with legends. But what do you think about Steven Seagal's rise and fall? Could he have saved his legacy if he had just humbled himself? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear it all. And hey, if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your crew, and tap that bell so you never miss the tea. Catch you in the next one.